Well, it's December, the holiday season is upon us. I'm sure you can tell by the blue skies and the sunshine. I thought what better way to kick off the holiday season than do filming locations for one of my favorite Christmas movies, the 1989 Mel Gibson and Danny Glover cop action comedy, Lethal Weapon. Let's go see what we can find. This right here is the building that we see Amanda Huntsacker fall from in the beginning of the movie. So right there where the grass now is, that's where the car would have been that she landed on top of. At the time, that grassy area wasn't there. The sidewalk would have kind of curved in and created an area for cars to pull up in front of the building, which you can see in the beginning of the movie when the camera is pointing down towards the sidewalk. This is the Warner Brothers Movie Ranch, and although part of Warner Brothers Studios and just right up the street from the Warner Brothers backlot, the Warner Brothers Movie Ranch is private and off limits to tours and visitors. Behind me you can see some houses peeking up over the fence, and it looks to be a normal suburban neighborhood. Of course, these are actually movie houses, and right here, this is Roger Murtaugh's house. So frustrating to know that it's like 20, 30 feet away, and this is as close as we can get. Now this house right here is actually the house right next door to the Murtaugh residence. Now since we can't get inside the movie ranch, let's once again turn to Google Earth and see if we can get a closer look. Okay, so this is the Warner Movie Ranch, and if we zoom in, that's Murtaugh's street. And if we click on one of these blue dots, it should bring us right in front of Murtaugh's house. And there it is, the Murtaugh family home. And if we come across the street, we get a shot really similar to the first time when we see the Murtaugh house in the movie. So a lot of stuff happens here in front of this house, like when Murtaugh and Riggs are sitting on the boat in the driveway talking about the Huntsacker case. And of course, the huge fight between Riggs and Joshua at the end of the movie, all of that takes place right here on this front lawn. And that window right there, that's the window that Riggs drives the police car through right before that fight. Now this is pretty awesome. You're not usually able to go inside houses, but we're actually able to go inside the Murtaugh house. I think they did that for scouts. And you can see right here, this is the shot we get when Murtaugh comes down the stairs in the morning as his daughter's friends are going up the stairs right after taking his bacon. And then Murtaugh heads over here and he shuts this door that his daughter's friends just came through. And right over here is the kitchen. There would have been a hole in the wall. I think this door is actually where that hole was in the movie. And the kitchen looks a bit different. I think it was a tad smaller in the movie. But if we look right over here, this is the dining room where Riggs sits down to have dinner with the Murtaugh family. And Nick and his little sister do the rap about Rianne having a crush on Riggs. You see Murtaugh going in and out this front door a couple of times, but when he comes in with Riggs, he stops in the living room to say hi to his son Nick, who's sitting on the couch right there in front of the fireplace watching TV with a friend. And right over here would have been the Murtaugh family Christmas tree, and like I already mentioned, that's the window that Riggs drives the police car through. As we walk out the front door, we can see where Riggs was parked when he comes over at the end of the movie to give a gift to Roger, but then ends up staying to have Christmas dinner with the Murtaugh family. We see Riggs' dog running across the beach with that lifeguard tower in the background, although it wasn't pink at the time. The dog runs across this bike path and right past both of these storm drains. And right here where these cars are parked, this is where Riggs' trailer would have been. You can clearly see the legs of this structure along with the Department of Water and Power building behind Riggs' trailer. We now find ourselves back at the scene of Amanda Huntsacker's death. Murtaugh would have pulled up right here in front of the building, but again there would have been a rounded driveway that he would have pulled into, And it's kind of hard to say exactly where he stopped his car because all these buildings across the street are different, but it would have been somewhere right about here where he stops and the other officer wishes him a happy birthday. And when he's talking with the other officer, getting ready to go talk with Dixie, you can clearly see this building in the background behind them. Now, like I said, a lot of the buildings around here have been torn down and new buildings have been built in their place. The building that you see across the street from Dixie while she's talking to Roger, that's been replaced by this high-rise. But the buildings that you can see in the background behind Dixie when she's getting in the police car, a lot of those are still the same. The 76 gas station is now a Shell gas station. And you can see this building in the background behind Roger when he's approaching the car and getting filled in on what happened. The building's been remodeled a bit and there's now trees blocking it. Today it's a used car dealership, but back in December of 1989, it was a Christmas tree lot, and inside this lot, Martin Riggs was trying to work out a drug deal. He would have been somewhere right over there because you can see these two buildings quite a few times throughout that scene. This Pizza Hut was a Winchell's at the time, and you can also see this sign for the 170 Hollywood Freeway. There's also a couple of times where you can see this building and the sign across the street. At the time, it was a Kenny's shoe store. When the drug deal goes bad, this is where the other cops pull up to come help out Riggs, and you can see this apartment building across the street, along with a little bit of this building, which again was a Kenny's shoes at the time. And when the last drug dealer takes Riggs hostage, you can see this building in the background behind them. Murtaugh comes to have a meeting with Michael Hutsacker at his place of business, which would have been Jamba Juice? All right, of course, this is where the bank was that Michael Hutsacker was in charge of, and I believe the main entrance to the bank would have actually been right here, 3800 Wilshire. Now, we never actually see the outside of the bank, we only see the inside, but the inside doesn't look anything like it used to, considering it's now just split up into a bunch of different retail stores. But at one point, the camera shoots out the window, and we can see right here on the corner used to be a Thrifty's drugstore. After talking with Michael Hutsacker, they come out here to get hot dogs from a hot dog cart that would have been right there. You can clearly see the Wiltern behind them, which had Lost Boys on the marquee. As they get back in their car, the camera once again shows the Thrifty's drugstore that used to be on this corner. And then they get in their car that would have been parked right here. The camera is shooting from up here on the roof, and it shows these buildings across the street. And we see Riggs and Murtaugh turn down this street and pull over and park. Because right up there on top of this building is where the jumper is that Riggs has to go try and talk down. Riggs and Murtaugh pull over and park here, and what's really cool is this sign right here is the same sign that we see in the movie. So right up there, that's where Riggs and the jumper would have been standing. And as far as I can tell, it seems like they might have built a little extra section of the building just for the movie. Riggs and the jumper both end up jumping off the building handcuffed together and land on the giant airbag that would have been right here in the middle of the street. Murtaugh, who's extremely pissed at Riggs, comes over here and grabs him and brings him across the street to this building, where they go inside and he begins to scold him and ask him if he's really crazy. This is where Murtaugh is talking to the department psychiatrist on his gigantic 80s mobile phone, trying to figure out if Riggs is actually crazy. And Riggs would have been standing over here, leaning up against the car, eating his food. This is where Riggs and Murtaugh are going to the house of the drug dealer. This is the gate right here that they pull up to. I can't tell you how disappointed I am that there's not a girl on a red Honda scooter at the gate waiting to greet me. Again, we'll take a look at Google Earth, and you can see right here is where the bad guy would have been standing that shoots at Riggs and Murtaugh. And it looks like that glass brick building is no longer there, and it's now a much larger pool house. But that's the famous pool that Riggs and Murtaugh dive into to try and save the guy. I'm on 111th Street right now.
You're gonna bust Dixie.
No, I'm not gonna bust Dixie. I'm just gonna go over there and have breakfast.
We're going over here to have breakfast.
But right here on the corner, this is where Dixie's house was, but it's not there anymore because, well, of course it blew up. But Dixie's house, along with all the other houses that were here on this block, are gone, and it's now a school. So it kind of makes me wonder if they really blew that house up for the movie because they were getting ready to tear it down anyways. And then right across the street, this is where the house was, where Alfred and the other kids were playing. But all these houses have been torn down as well, and it's now a Metro park and ride lot. But there's still a couple of ways that we can tell this is the right location. For one, in the movie, you can see the street signs for Larch Avenue and 111th Street.
111th and Larch.
And also, there's still at least one house left that was visible in the movie. This house right here on the corner, this was directly across from Dixie's house on the other side of Larch Avenue. And it's pretty unbelievable that all the other houses around here have been torn down, but this one still looks the same. This was the Huntsacker residence, but we never actually see the front of the house in the movie. We only see the back of the house. And unfortunately, we can't see the back of the house without going onto the property. So again, we'll turn to Google Earth. And you can see right here, this is the backyard where they're having the memorial service. And right here is where the helicopter rises up, and we see Mr. Joshua hanging out of the helicopter, and he proceeds to take out Michael Huntsacker. Well, I came over here on the other side of the house, and you still can't see the backyard of the Huntsacker residence. But right out here, this is where the helicopter would have been flying around over the ocean. And if we turn the camera this way, this cliff can clearly be seen in the background behind Roger when he's standing in Huntsacker's office. Riggs is walking down the street right here, and Murtaugh is standing across the street right there in front of that store. The camera stops and focuses on this store, 8302, which is the only store here that we can't really see because the tree is blocking it. Riggs continues down the sidewalk and approaches the girl that would have been standing on this corner. And that plaza on the opposite corner wasn't there at the time, but you can see this building. The car then comes speeding through this intersection, and Mr. Joshua shoots Riggs, and he goes flying through this window. The camera is then shooting from inside the store. We see Murtaugh run across the street, and we see a bit of the address above the door as he runs over to Riggs, who would have been lying on the floor right here after just flying through this window. I want to take a second to give a huge thank you to the employees at Alan Jeffries Framing, who were extremely nice to me and let me come inside to film out the window for a minute. Riggs and Murtaugh head out to the desert to try and rescue Rianne, and that was filmed in El Mirage Dry Lake near Victorville, California. The finale of the movie brings us to Hollywood Boulevard, because the nightclub where they hold Riggs and Murtaugh hostage in the back is supposedly right over here. So this is the building that they come running out of, but I'm pretty sure that the interiors were filmed somewhere else. When Joshua is running out of the building, it actually appears to be an adult bookstore, and you can see the supply sergeant right here on the right side, which is an army surplus store that's still here. As Joshua runs out the front door, we can see Musso and Frank's across the street to the right and Vogue across the street to the left. He runs out in the middle of the street towards Musso and Frank's, and he steals the car from the lady. A few moments later, we see Riggs and Murtaugh come running out of the building right here. And Joshua fires at Murtaugh and Riggs as they're standing in front of the famous Pussycat Theater. Joshua takes off in the stolen car, and we see Riggs standing in the middle of the street right here, firing his gun at him. Murtaugh chases after Riggs, who would have been running down this street right here chasing after Joshua. Murtaugh is standing right here on the corner yelling at Riggs to take the 3rd Street Bridge to cut off Joshua. And for those of you that aren't from Los Angeles, there's no 3rd Street Bridge around here. Joshua comes around the corner right here, heads up the street, and then turns to go down underneath the bridge. As Joshua comes around the corner right here, you can see this building for the famous pest control company. A few seconds later, Riggs comes around the corner on foot, heads right past this building and over to the side of the bridge. Riggs takes a shot at Joshua's car, causes it to catch fire and head down this hill. Joshua passes under the bridge and crashes right into a utility pole that would have been right here in front of where I'm standing. Riggs comes running down that hill right there chasing after Joshua. Joshua remembers that he was thinking about buying an Audi, so he decides to test drive one.
Mind if I test drive your Audi?
And it's right about here where Riggs would have got hit by the taxi. That billboard up there had pancakes on it at the time. In this alley directly behind Hollywood Boulevard, we see the general trying to escape. His car is headed right for Murtaugh when Murtaugh fires some shots into the car, causing them to lose control and head right for Musso and Frank's. As their car crosses Hollywood Boulevard, a bus comes along and smashes right into the car, coincidentally just like this bus that just passed by us. Murtaugh cautiously approaches the car coming down Cherokee Avenue, and he sees the car flipped over in the middle of Hollywood Boulevard. Murtaugh then watches the car explode right in front of him. So Lethal Weapon has multiple deleted scenes, like this one where we see Riggs break his TV before heading to work, and then after work he comes home with a new television set. Or this scene where we see Riggs drinking away his troubles in a bar and 2 guys decide to try and mug him. Of course, he beats the snot out of both of them. Most of these scenes can be found on either YouTube or the director's cut DVD. In another deleted scene, we see Riggs driving down the street when a call comes over the radio that there's a sniper at a schoolyard. Riggs responds that he's headed to the call, and we see him drive off down the street this way. We then see Riggs come around the corner and pull up in front of the school and park right in front of these steps. He gets out of the car and walks up the steps and heads into the schoolyard. Now, Riggs would have been standing right here, and the sniper would have been right here in this window. Of course, Riggs ends up taking out the sniper and then turns around and heads out of the school. So for anyone that wants to argue that Lethal Weapon isn't a Christmas movie, I give you these 3 points. Number 1, the movie opens up with Jingle Bell Rock. Number 2, it's Christmas time throughout the entire movie. The movie's full of Christmas trees, Christmas lights, and thoughtful gift giving.
It's a bullet.
Yeah, it's a bullet.
And number 3, Trish Murtaugh is played by the one and only Darlene Love. And if you're not sure who Darlene Love is, she's not only a major contributor to 1960s girl groups, she's also a major contributor to Christmas music. Not a year can go by without us hearing her version of Marshmallow World, Winter Wonderland, and of course, It's Christmas Baby Please Come Home. So, is it a complete coincidence that such a major contributor to Christmas music plays a role in Lethal Weapon? I don't think so. If you enjoyed this video and you're not yet subscribed, please consider doing that now. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.